On to another story now. A manhunt has been launched to try and track down those responsible for an alleged hit on the CEO of a Gupta-owned mining company. That is, Jagarath Arora was gunned down while driving in Midrand in northern Johannesburg on Saturday night. Our reporter Govan Whittles is following that story and joins me in studio now. Govan, good morning to you. So talk to us about what happened exactly here and who this gentleman is.
All right, Oli, so Mr. JP Arora, he was gunned down near New Road in Midrand on Saturday night. And essentially, from what we know from the police right now, the gunman is not known. They managed to get away. His car was literally sprayed with bullets, and he managed to drive himself towards the hospital, but never made it. And he sadly died on the road. That's where the authorities found his body.
It is alleged here, Govan, that this was a clear hit. Do we know how many bullets were found in the vehicle he was driving?
Well, we know that over a dozen bullets bullet holes had been found on his vehicle. But you're right, even the business rescue practitioner for Optimum Mine, of course, JIC, which Mr. JP Arora was the CEO of, was subcontracting for Optimum Mine. And the business rescue practitioner this morning calling it an assassination, saying that they've been completely shocked by the timing of it all. And right now we do know that while the CEO has been killed, there are also more than 500 workers of JIC which are still owed their salaries. So that is still up in the air at the moment, and the industry is just shocked by this.
Do we know, Govan, whether anything was taken from the vehicle that he was driving, or this was, as the speculation is, that this was simply a hit? It was simply an orchestrated campaign to try and execute this man?
From what we know so far, nothing was taken. Mr. JP Arora was alone at the time of the hit, and after the car was shot at and he was killed, or after he was shot, no one tried to enter the car. There was no attempt to try and get anything from the vehicle. So it does seem that this was something that, or the shooters had come to just shoot him and leave, and there was no intention for a robbery or hijacking.
Give us a brief history of this man, because I know that you've gone to some detail to try and get his background. Tell us who he was and what his role was, perhaps I should say, in the Gupta-owned businesses.
Right, so the JIC and JP Arora come onto the scene around 2014 when the deal to sell Optimum, allegedly negotiated by the then mining minister, Mosebenzi Zwane, was still underway. So when Optimum gets taken over in 2014, one of the first things that the new bosses do is they halve the workforce. At that point, there were about 1,000 workers. They halve it to 500, and they employ the JIC under the leadership of JP Arora to take over the other 500 workers and start doing underground work. Then his name did come up in the Gupta leaks as well. At one point, he allegedly invited the nephew of the Guptas and the CEO, the then CEO of Oak Bay, to a private by invitation only dinner with Mosebenzi Zwane in 2015 at the mining summit held in Cape Town. So this is a very controversial figure. We do know that he had some falling out with the unions and the workers. They were particularly unhappy because they had not been paid for October and November. But we also do know that the JIC is currently under liquidation. The court had already ordered its liquidation because it failed to pay the creditors. The thing is, the creditors which applied for JIC to be liquidated are not the workers. So in this case, if the company's liquidation is finalized, the creditors would be paid first, and Optimum Mine is essentially left to figure out how to pay these 500 workers. For the CEO to be killed in the middle of all this has certainly really shaken the boat, and we're not sure now how the business rescue plans for Optimum will continue and what will happen to these 500 workers.
You're talking to us about the reaction from the business rescue practitioners who are saying that this is an absolute hit. Have you been able to speak to any of the unions involved at Optimum Coal Mine?
I have indeed, and as far as they were also quite shocked by what had happened, but the NUM particularly, which represents about 80 to 90% of the workforce, says that they're confident that this won't derail the plans to get these workers their money. So essentially, even though JIC owes these workers about 11 million, that's a monthly, so 22 million for the 2 months, they're hoping that the business rescue practitioner will be able to sell Optimum, that the creditors will approve the bid in the next couple of days, and they'll be able to raise funds to pay the workers from that money. So they don't think it'll derail the sale of Optimum. They do think that they'll get these 500 workers re-employed, but obviously the industry has just had a massive shock with the murder that's happened.
How are they reacting, though, specifically, Govan, to this alleged hit?
I must say that they're not ready to speak about it yet. Everyone is in shock at the moment. I did have a chance to speak to the Highveld chairperson of the National Union of Mine Workers this morning, and he said that they don't have a response yet. They're just taken aback by it. The business rescue practitioner said the same thing. I think for now, everyone in the company is just trying to take in
this news.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Govan Whittles, giving us the latest on the gunning down of Mr. J.P. Arora, someone who was leading one of the Gupta's mines.